So to me, the heart is that direct connection that we have with that world that is always here, that is always guiding us and supporting us, but that we can't really see. In order to access the heart, though, there are a lot of things that I personally had to experience. So in this process and with this podcast, one of my biggest hopes and invitations for you is to practice love, compassion, patience, and grace towards yourself. Because the process of connecting with our hearts, which implies that we need to learn about ourselves and that we need to connect with ourselves from a different place, means that there's going to be a lot of discomfort. Welcome to The Way of the Heart. I am Nat, and I am the host of this podcast. Thank you so much for joining me in this official first episode. This is really the second iteration of this podcast. Initially, I recorded something like over 30 episodes last year, and they were all solo episodes in which I was really figuring out what my heart wanted to say. I was going through a transition after having a company for 7 years, and then I felt that it was time for a change. And the idea of having a podcast in this format had been in my mind for a little while. So I decided to go for it. And I knew that before having conversations with other human beings and to really go all in with this format, I wanted to find more confidence in myself, and I wanted to really know more about my heart and what I really wanted to say. So I recorded all those 30 episodes, and it was a great way for me to really find out what it was that my heart was pulling me towards. And here we are today with the first official episode of this second iteration. And I am so incredibly excited because today, as I'm recording this episode, I have already recorded, I believe it's 4 episodes with other people and conversations that have been so beautiful. And I cannot wait to share more of this with you. And my hope and my intention with this podcast is to really bring new ideas to you, the listener, new ideas and possibilities to start building a world that is more heart-centered so that we can build connections, we can make decisions, take actions that are really thinking of the well-being of all of us involved and not just a personal gain, which really takes me to what it means to me to follow the way of the heart. One of those things that means to me is really working or serving from this heart-centered place, which is always going to have everyone in mind and not just my personal gain. I recently heard someone talk about the difference between passion and purpose, and they were talking about how passion was always an individual kind of feeling or experience. Purpose, he said, it is that which always serves. It has others in mind. And I really feel like this to me is this podcast, this format of content and sharing my voice and what's inside of here is really the way in which I am taking action on my purpose. And another meaning of following the way of the heart to me is connecting with the spirit world. So to me, the heart is that direct connection that we have with that world that is always here, that is always guiding us and supporting us, but that we can't really see. So to me, the heart is that doorway into this beautiful relationship and connection with our guides, with our higher self, with our ancestors, with our angels, all of the names that we have for it. But that which a lot of us have experienced and we don't really have the right word to express it. So the heart to me is that doorway, is the way in which we kind of like open the door and peek through that which is always there, always guiding us and always having the best intentions in mind. In order to access the heart, though, there are a lot of things that I personally had to experience. And one of those things was really getting to know myself, getting to know how my mind was working, the type of thoughts that I give energy to, the type of beliefs that I sustain that create the world around me. And doing that can be really difficult. To do that, I was supported through multiple practices, but specifically meditation. It was the tool, and it is still the tool that I use the most. It is a practice. It is really a way of being, but I want to talk about it right now as a tool and as a practice that really allowed me to understand my thoughts. It was a way in which I got silent and connected with what was going on in my head, what was going on in my heart as well, what was going on in my body. In order for us to connect with the heart, we need to know the mind and we need to know the body well enough so that we know what is actually driving us. Is it our mammal body that is programmed to do certain things, which is informing the brain to do and see the world from maybe like a fear-based perspective? When we get to understand how those fears and the programmings are really manifesting for each one of us, then we get to understand our tendencies. We get to understand what is the foundation of this structure that is our life, that is our body, that is our mind, that is our heart. To do that, and to get there and to start to find out all of the things that have been running our life, which is really like the software that has been running this hardware. It's difficult at times to find out that the things that I was doing, the beliefs that I was sustaining, the thoughts that I was keeping in my mind, and the way that I was connecting with others, how all of that programming was really manifesting in the connections that I had with those around me in the world was really difficult because I saw how much suffering I was creating for myself and perhaps suffering for others as well. So in this process and with this podcast, one of my biggest hopes and invitations for you is to practice love, compassion, patience, and grace towards yourself. Because the process of connecting with our hearts, which implies that we need to learn about ourselves and that we need to connect with ourselves from a different place, means that there's going to be a lot of discomfort. There's going to be a lot of expansion that needs to happen, and we're going to stretch ourselves to build a new structure and a new system and a new software for this body and for this life. So really, my biggest hope is that with the conversations that we have here, you can learn ways in which you can give yourself that space to have your own journey into finding that doorway, that connection with the heart, and really shedding a lot of those layers that have programmed us into acting and reacting to the world in a way that perhaps is not beneficial anymore for yourself or for others. The second biggest invitation that I have for you in this podcast is to keep an open mind. Keep an open mind and an open heart, of course, but that takes time to do it. It's a training. And the reason why I say this is because in order for us to build new structures, to install a new software, we need to find ideas that are new. In order for us to experience change and something new, then we need to let go of the things that we have thought and believed, and we need to make space for the new. So that process is what I'm talking about, that really requires our love, our compassion, our patience. And then we need to be open enough to allow whatever information is coming to us to at least give it the chance to exist without judging that. Another thing that perhaps is convenient to say right now is that I am a mindfulness meditation teacher. And one of the qualities that we practice a lot in our mindfulness meditation practice is having a beginner's mind. That beginner's mind is what I'm talking about here. Having an open mind and an open heart to allow new information to exist without filtering it as good or bad or right or wrong. It's really allowing the space for that to exist. Ultimately, to me, the way of the heart is the journey towards something new, towards change. It is that fertile soil that is going to allow anything and everything to grow. And how we tend to that soil and how we take that journey is really important. And I keep saying this, and you will hear me say this over and over again because it's incredibly important to me. It is my life's mission to help us all, including myself, remember that with love and compassion, we can give way to radical transformation. And if there's something that I know for sure is that the world that we live in right now is screaming for change. It is calling for our attention and our action to start watering the seeds for something better, for a more beautiful world. I really hope that the conversations in this podcast are bringing some type of gift to your life and allowing space for that transformation that is either taking place already or about to take place. If you want to support this podcast, if you want to listen to any of the conversations that are coming out in the future, please subscribe in any channel that you're listening to or watching. Please subscribe. If you want to leave us a review or a thumbs up, whether it is now or in a few episodes to go, if you resonate with the podcast, I would really appreciate that. The more that there is some type of review or interaction with this podcast, the more the channels and the platforms where we are streaming this will share with others. And ultimately, my hope is that every single person in the planet has the ability, the capacity, and the opportunity to love themselves and love others in the way that we're supposed to, and in a way that is expansive and joyful. So please share with anyone that you think will benefit from any of the conversations that you will find in this podcast, that you will find in this channel. And if you are watching this on YouTube, please make sure to leave any comments, to interact. I would love to know you. I would love to hear from you. And if you have any ideas, any requests as to what type of conversations you would want to listen to in this channel, what type of guests, I am more than happy to receive all of your ideas, all of your suggestions. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you in the next episode. I love you so much.